Oklahoma's been in fall camp for less than a week, but already some interesting things are coming out of Norman. A freshman running back is forcing his way into the conversation. Young defensive linemen are turning heads, and John Mateer is rekindling memories of what he looked like before he broke his thumb last season. So let's forget the August hype. What we're going to try to figure out today is simple. Is Oklahoma actually fixing everything that kept it from competing for a national championship last season? It's Big Monday. Let's talk about it. Good morning, and welcome back to Rise and Shine College Football's Big Monday. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, you know you're in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss a moment of Hall of Fame college football. Everybody let me know that we're good to go here. I'm seeing it on my end, but I want to make sure that you guys are all good. Give me a 1 if you see and hear and everything's good. Let's see. I think we're good. Yep. All right. Welcome into the show, everybody. Good to see everybody here. Let's see. Thank you, Ben G. Good to see you, man. Good to see you. All right. Yep, let's get started. What actually matters in August? Look, everybody's stronger. We all know that. Everybody has chemistry. Every freshman is ahead of schedule. Every transfer is exactly what we needed. This is everywhere, all around the country. But I don't care who won Thursday's practice. I care when the same name keeps coming up over and over and over again. Is Oklahoma actually fixing the things that prevented them from competing for a national championship last season? We're going to find out as things continue to progress throughout this fall camp. One of the major things, and welcome into the show, everybody. Ben G, Seatbelt Mafia, Scooby, Shaggy. Let's see. Coach Riggs, what up, big dog? Seatbelt Mafia, my guy, and Sweetness. What's up, fellas? What's up? Good to see everybody. David Moyer. Good to see my guy. Hey, Ben G, thank you, bro. Wish you would have asked her to answer the question she asked you. And hey, that's a good one. Maybe I'll get an opportunity to do that before too long. Those which questions are you talking about though? Like the quick hitter answers, the quick hitter questions. It's a good. That's actually I like that. She's been doing, and shout out to Really Flawed, by the way. She's been killing it. She's wanted to do special packaging and all that stuff. You know, a series for everybody to watch. She's done it with the NFL stuff. She obviously does it with college football. So she's instead of doing a top 25 this year, I think she just wanted to focus just on teams that she feels like are relevant for the CFP, or they're going to make some kind of a splash. You know, what they do matters throughout the season. So great stuff. All the stuff that she's put out there so far has been pretty freaking amazing, including the one that we did together. But I really enjoyed the last one that she just put out. Get over there. If you're not already a subscriber to Really Flawed Football, get over there and subscribe to Really Flawed Football. She's kicking ass over there doing that stuff. So, I'm so freaking glad that Bevo's bodyguard said this. Ass clown. I love it. If you could grab a player from another team, Ben G says, yeah. Good stuff. Yeah, Coach Ricks, that's some silly stuff. That's some silly stuff. The thing that nobody's talking about is Mateer eye discipline. Does he believe it? Some people might call it progressing. Some people might call it awareness. Hope he's figured it. And play design, Robert Walliger. What up? What up, good sir? Tommy Tough Knuckles. Good to see you, bro. I don't know. I don't know, Scooby. I don't know. I hadn't heard all that. Yeah, bro. We'll get into that. We'll get into that a little bit, and I'll even probably show that video again. But leave it to Texas fans to, turn that into a national championship talk. Even Emmanuel Acho saying it. So just another one of those hype things that, if you don't win the national championship, how could that be? How could that be? I just love it. I freaking love it. Hilarious. All right, so I guess we're not streaming to Facebook. Well, I don't think we got a ton of views there anyway. No monetization, doesn't matter. What up there, Scooby? This third shit has been wrecking me. Oh, yeah, that overnight stuff is rough. All right, let's jump into some of this stuff real quick. We'll kind of get back into some of that. We'll get into the Coleman stuff here in a little bit too. But again, what actually matters in August? Look, I'll tell you that nothing, including Ken Coleman's big catch over the middle of if that was a tip ball, cool. But if it wasn't, you got a bigger question going on in Austin about what the hell kind of throw is that? Not going to get away with that stuff when actual play gets underway. But, some of the things we're starting to hear out of OU camp, been kind of great stuff. Probably the lead for me would be OU may have found one. They may have found a number one back in Jonathan Hatton, making lots of noise from what we understand throughout fall camp so far. It's early. We haven't even been going a week yet, but he's already kind of starting to emerge. What I saw from him in the spring game was pretty amazing as well. His early first team opportunities, from what we're understanding, is that he's kind of kicking ass, man. Has OU finally built a backfield? The question is not, is he going to be RB1? I think that could come, but more likely later in the season. As long as you've got healthy Xavier Robinson, Torrey Blaylock, chances are you're probably going to see a heavy dose of them early on and have him kind of coming in, getting some touches, things like that. Guys like Lloyd Avant have come in. This is another veteran presence in the backfield that they like. But we've said this a bunch of times. One of the things that Mr. Mason always said, that it was probably my favorite quote of anything he said, was, if your dog's going to bite, it bites as a puppy. That would say a lot about Zephyr Walker and, of course, Jonathan Hatton. These are both guys that looked really good in the spring game. They're true freshmen with a lot of hype behind them. Jonathan Hatton being a top 100 player coming into the season, a flip from Texas A&M that they felt really good about adding them to their backfield. OU made a late push for him and were able to flip him to the Sooners. I think your opportunities are big there if you're him. This is a kid that he's got a lot in the tank. Good build, strong. He's gotten big. He runs behind his pads really well, and he's got some breakaway stuff that that's what you're looking for at this level. Now, the question though to me is, like I said, it's not really whether or not he's going to be RB1 right away out of the gate. Even AD didn't do that. They kind of worked him into the action as the season progressed early on. Now, by the time you get to, week 3, week 4, week 5, that kind of stuff, a freshman like that, and this is assuming he becomes very, very good and becomes starter worthy, he will have worked his way and you won't be able to keep him out. And that's basically what happened with guys like Adrian Peterson. There's been backs like that throughout OU's history. But, before we go crazy and start crowning him saying he's AD, we don't want to do that. But basically, what it makes you question is if Oklahoma's finally built a backfield that doesn't require John Mateer to be the savior and be your leading rusher, your leading guy getting touchdowns out of the backfield, that kind of stuff. You want Mateer to be able to focus on hitting deep plays in the passing game and, timely runs, things that are going to help you, pick up a third down here, third down there. But you got to keep the guy healthy. We've talked a ton about that. At the end of the day, if Jonathan Hatton does force Oklahoma to give him, say, 12 touches a game, that changes the offense more than another 500 passing yards would for Mateer overall, because it means that you could probably get another 500 passing yards from Mateer because you are forcing defenses to be honest with you and cover you, whether it be in the running game, and they have to honor your deep passing game as well. That's the thing that I think is the most important. The next story coming out of there really would obviously be the John Mateer reset. And that's basically, can Oklahoma get another September out of John Mateer for the entire season? You saw him last season when he had the healthy thumb. It wasn't perfect, but he was certainly more explosive, comes out of the gates where he is a Heisman front runner, obviously gets injured against Auburn, and it kind of goes away. But this is year 2 with Ben Arbuckle. Obviously, they've added a ton around him to improve everything else. And as we've said a lot of times, I feel like if you get better play from everybody else around him, then you're probably going to get a better version of John Mateer as well. Got to have better decision-making, got to cut down on the turnovers. And I think one of the things that we've talked about it a lot, over the offseason, but not as much lately, is one of the things you don't mind that he's going to take shots here and there or whatever. You want to see him take shots down the field and not get away from that kind of stuff, because you do want to be explosive in the passing game. What you don't want to see is second down plays where you're taking an ill-advised throw that could turn into an interception. If it's third and long, and you throw it deep down the field, Coach Ricks and I talked about this on the phone yesterday. If you throw it deep downfield on a third and long and it gets picked off on a 50-50 ball, that's essentially like punting, right? It's different, of course, situationally if you're, first or second down and you make an ill-advised throw. But you have to give these guys an opportunity to kind of move forward. I think that if you see him kind of do some the mechanic stuff, I'm not as worried about. I want to see, kind of what we've talked about in the past. Get your base underneath you. Your arm slot doesn't matter as much then. But don't be afraid to stay in the pocket, because you essentially have a much better offensive line, an offensive line that was performing much better at the end of last season as well. But you definitely want to have an opportunity to stay in the pocket, let your guys get a chance to get open, and then take some shots down there. Of course, the running game will definitely have something to do with that, right? And that's the biggest thing for me, is whether you can have a dangerous John Mateer that doesn't require him to be the running game. Okay? Let's see what we're talking about. What up, Sweetness? Jez, J-Fez 50, what's up, my guy? Sooner guy. Still has question marks. Hey, what up? That's Chuckster. What up, Chuck? I think the play calling script will be to force the run more. I just wonder what happens when it starts getting hairy. Does Ben and Mateer stick with handing the rock, or does he go to the hero ball? That's the big question. Hey, Coach Ricks and I were talking about that yesterday. That's a big question. And it's one of those things, like I said, it's one thing whenever you're playing a team you can beat. The UTEP isn't going to test you a whole lot. I know New Mexico with their coach, and they've got a good situation. They were tied for the Mountain West Championship in the regular season last year. They like that coach out there. Look, man, as somebody who lived in New Mexico for most of his, young life, I'll just, the Lobos aren't doing much. But they should definitely not compete with Oklahoma for very long. At the end of the day, what you see in those games, and even, some of the lighter games that you would have in the SEC. Not that there's a ton of that. You have to start, you know, when these games are getting tight, when you get into a situation on the road at Michigan, on the road at Georgia, you know, in the Red River, obviously, where everything's not going great, and maybe, you know, you're just scratching out, you know, 3 yards, 3.5 yards a carry. Will you stay committed to running the football that way? You know, will you change some things up in the scheme instead of just going back to the hero ball stuff? Because we know that stuff didn't work last year, especially in the second half of the year and against the better teams that you played. The truth of the matter is, it didn't work a ton in the Auburn game. You know, it didn't. I mean, there were some big plays that he made with his feet in the Michigan game, but he also got himself popped pretty good in a couple of those, you know, and it's one of them deals where you just, we've talked about it a ton. If you get beyond Mateer, you have almost zero experience coming back, right? Whit Neubauer, I know, played quite a bit in his, the season that when he was at his last school. I always forget which school it is. I know the name is just not on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, aside from him, you basically have zero experience in college football, you know, Division I college football, FBS, whatever. So you don't want to get past him if you don't have to. And keeping him healthy is very important. Let's see. Scooby Shaggy, how does it feel to talk about a running back room that are not just two like last year? Yeah, that's it. Hey, you know what, Stephen G? It's big, and I think it's important. I also think that, you know, and I saw this kind of with Jay and Cooper talking about this last night. You definitely want to see somebody. The reason I was kind of talking about Jonathan Hatton, whether it be Troy Blaylock or X, somebody has to establish themselves as the lead dog in the room. You know, because to me, the concern that you end up having is if you've got three backs that are getting kind of even carries, you're probably pretty mediocre in the run game, right? Somebody needs to establish themselves as the lead ball carrier. Who's the big guy? You know, that's where it's, you know, needs to learn to fight another day. I like that. Throw that shit in the stands. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Run for 250 against UTEP. Yeah, and you know, something I said, and if you hadn't watched that episode where I kind of talked about how does OU keep from a repeat of last year, and where, you know, at the end of the day, games like that, they can kind of fool you into believing that you're something that you're not. Now, if you go out there and have 250 against UTEP, does that mean you're going to have 250 against Georgia? No. Does it mean you're going to have 250 against Michigan? No. But if you go out there and you can't rush for 150 yards with your running backs, or, you know, 200 with your running backs in a game like that, or you're not doing good, you know, putting yourself behind the sticks a lot on third down, where you're having to force it down the field quite a bit, or you're having to get, you know, third and long, you're having to convert on that a lot in order to make things happen, then that's not a good sign for when you get into the Michigan, Georgia, Texas games and so forth. So that's the thing with me is, like, you know, it'd be cool if you do get that 250, great. That's awesome. If you don't, you know, but it doesn't necessarily, even if you do, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going to happen against the big dogs. The main thing is to not have a lot of the same looks that got you in trouble at the end of the year or in the middle and all that too. What up there, Hammer? My guy. DJ OC. Hopefully it won't be a dumb rotation like DeMarco had. I don't know that it was just DeMarco, but I'm not going to get into all that stuff anymore. I think we're past all that at this point. You know, I wish the best of DeMarco Murray moving forward, but I'll say again, the main thing that I know is I don't know how much control he had over that rotation. And the reason I can say that is that Javonte Barnes would have been in his rotation if it was just his. That's what I feel. He was healthy. There was no reason why he should have redshirted. But once he got to 4 games and he wasn't getting very many carries, he was out of there. So to me, if it was DeMarco's room and it was his rotation, completely, I don't think that would have happened because Javonte had been in games when he was hurt in the past as a younger guy that hadn't really established himself yet. It didn't make a ton of sense, and it just feels like that was one of his favorites. You know what I mean? Coach Ricks with the super chat, $4.99. Thank you, Coach. To be honest, that Georgia game is going to be like Clemson versus Georgia. 10-3, 13-9. That could happen. That could happen. Dela McCullough is, thanks for the super chat, Coach. Dela McCullough is a no-nonsense guy. He will play the guys that create a separation. He doesn't care about rankings or if you're a freshman or upperclassman. Again, I would agree with that. I tend to agree with that, What up there, Neilio? Thanks for coming in, man. Good to see you. We have faith in Dalen's track record. No, I do, and I do too. At the end of the day, I think it was, it's easy to say that it was about DeMarco or it was about Joe John or it was about this or that or whatever, when it came to the offense last year. At the end of the day, it still was, even if it really was, okay, so here's what this is the last thing I want to say about this too. Even if it was DeMarco's rotation that you didn't like or whatever it was, right? And it was not producing the fruit that you think it wasn't producing. Cool. If you're Ben Arbuckle, why don't you say something? And if it was Ben Arbuckle's rotation that he wanted in there, then you have to, if that's the case, then you have to say it didn't have nothing to do with DeMarco. Right? I could talk about years past. I think, 3 years ago, there were some things that made you scratch your head about it. I don't know that Lebby really did. Here at the end of the day, none of us are in the headset listening to what, the offensive group might be saying and might be in what decisions are being made in the film room or meetings and stuff like that throughout the week either. So, but if we're talking about, that rotation and just saying that Dela McCullough is going to make it all better, well, that's assuming that Dela McCullough is going to decide who's in on play after play, right? That's assuming that, and if that's the case, then if you assume that about DeMarco and it wasn't working real good last year, then why wasn't Ben Arbuckle doing his job and making sure that the right guy was in? Because it's your offense. At the end of the day, you have the final say on who plays. That's all I'd have to say. But it is what it is. Walker should have stayed as running back 1. I don't know. We'll see. Let's see. Yeah, you don't want to see the lack of running game or poor third down conversions. These easier tune-ups. Oh, yeah, no doubt. No doubt. That's the main thing is that, you don't get a ton of you expect them to blow UTEP out. You expect them to blow UNM out. The fact is that they just don't have the horses to play with you for very long, particularly in your house, early in the season. You're healthy. Oklahoma's got, in my mind, the best defense in the country and an offense that should be able to do work against you, right? There's not maybe a player or two, that is starting maybe for a team like New Mexico or UTEP. How many guys, even starters on those teams, could start or be in the top 2 of the depth chart at Oklahoma? Not many, right? Maybe a few. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would agree with this, Shawty. I know you're coming in to talk a little smack, but I agree with you, actually. And, it better be fixed. You're going to have to run the football in that game. Now, what do I say? We'll talk about it more leading into week 4, but are you going to go into Sanford Stadium and beat Georgia playing their football? Probably not. So, well, you better have a good running game that week. And you better establish the run that week. It might come down to who can make the biggest plays in the passing game who wins it. I kind of feel like. So, yeah, we'll see. My gun sweet is good to see you, man. Did I just see where was Mars Jams was in here too? What up, Mars? How important are those non-con SEC versus Big Ten games? Oklahoma, Michigan, Ohio State, Texas, and Mississippi State, Minnesota. I mean, I think they're important, but important for different reasons. If we're talking SEC, Big Ten matchups, so so that the narratives change or whatever. Here's the deal. What I know is that the SEC in non-conference games during the regular season last year, they were like 14 and 5 or something like that. Right? I don't have the exact number again. I have it somewhere written down here, and I've talked about it ad nauseum. And in the last few years, it's been the same thing. When the games have mattered, the SEC wins them. Right? Oklahoma won the Michigan game last year. Ohio State won the Texas-Ohio State game. But Texas didn't miss it because they lost the Ohio State game. So I don't want to hear, about that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, do I care about this narrative in the early part of the season? Not really. It'll be more crap for people to talk. But do I think that if you're Oklahoma, though, this is talk on the Oklahoma side of things. If you're Oklahoma, and this is a good question, by the way, Hammer, we've talked about it, you can't really afford to lose this game on the road at Michigan if you're trying to be in the playoff again and making a run at a national championship. Because you have to assume that, yes, you're going to beat UTEP. You should beat New Mexico. You shouldn't really have a hard time there. When you get to Georgia, can the expectation really be that you're going to go to Athens and win? Because it rarely happens that anybody goes into Stanford Stadium and comes out with a win, unless your name's Alabama. Okay? And they haven't played a ton of home games, against Bama during the regular season. I think the last time they had before last year was like back in the 80s. So it's not like there's been a bunch of those regular season games. Aside from that, though, nobody else has really touched them. They had the longest win streak going at that time, I think, in the country, right there at home. So for Alabama to beat them, and it was a tight game. So the expectation can't be for you to go into Athens and win the game. The hope is that you can, but then you got to turn around and go up against a Texas team that everybody's hyping that they definitely have the talent to be able to win. Does Oklahoma need to win one of these damn games and put some points on the board in Texas? Absolutely. But a game like Michigan, you better win that one, because if you lose either or both of the next two, then, you're going to be back to the wall on the playoff situation. I feel like, and I've said this a bunch of times, you better be at minimum 4-1 through those first 5 games, which means that you won 2 out of 3 against your big opponents. 2 true road games in that stretch. And of course you have the game in Dallas as well, which is neutral site. But if you don't think that winning that game is important, it's crazy. And it doesn't have anything to do with who's got the better conference. I don't give a shit about the SEC Big Ten conversation when it comes to Oklahoma. I don't care. You're never going to hear me chanting SEC. That's just not how I am. I'm an OU guy. I could give a shit what the rest of the SEC does. I just don't care. Do I think it's important for the SEC to win a national championship soon? Yes, I do. Do I think that it, overall, is it going to matter a ton in those 2 games? Not really. The Mississippi State-Minnesota game, that's only a conversation about who's better at the mid-level or even bottom level of those conferences. And again, it's a good talking point to have during the offseason and all that kind of stuff. But during the regular season, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? It's going to matter when we get down to the playoffs. But I like the question. But I don't know that it, I hope that answered it for you. Does somebody want to? All right, I'm going to educate you because since you're so uneducated about college sports, Penn State sports talk. Why do all OU fans, if it's University of Oklahoma, why all say OU if it's University of Oklahoma? Going all the way back to the Big Eight, all the Big Eight schools did the same thing. All of them. So like Colorado, University of Colorado is CU. Oklahoma State is OSU, but like K-State, KU, University of Kansas is KU. Need I continue? This is long-standing, goes all the way back to the days of the Big Eight. That's how they did things in the conference. So there you go. You're welcome. Let's see. Spoken like a real non-SEC, SEC fan, go back to the Big 12. I didn't say that. I didn't say I wanted to go back to the Big 12. I like being in the SEC for Oklahoma. I think it's a good thing. But I think that this idea that you're going to root for anybody else when it comes down to it, I don't give a shit about the rest of the conference. That's how I feel about it as a fan. The non-con games matter a lot if at the end of the season you're sitting on the bubble, in my opinion. Of course they do. Yeah, but that doesn't have any. What I was talking about as far as you're talking with the whole Big Ten versus SEC stuff like that, you know. Coach Ricks with another super chat. Thanks, Coach Ricks. What's he saying here? Against Georgia, just don't go away from the run. Yeah, I think that has to be kind of the, one of the things as we're continuing having this conversation. You've heard and seen them getting under center a little bit, material under center. That's freaking awesome. 12 and 13 personnel. It'd be kind of cool if you had a two-back set. If you're going to play two running backs a lot, do it out of a two-back set. If we're going to run it like that, let's run it like that. I love that. At 22, let's go 22. Two backs, two tight ends, run over your ass kind of football. I love shit like that. That'd be awesome. The main thing is commit to the run game, right? Commit to the run game because just because it's not working, the run game is to accomplish two things. And Coach Ricks, you being a former OC and obviously a head coach, but being a play caller, it's not always about how many yards you're picking up. It's about softening up the defense for the end of the game and making sure that they have to add guys to the box in order to be able to stop you. When you talk about the Georgia game, and we kind of talked about this last night, one of the things that you have to try to do to beat these guys, because this is how they've beaten teams since they, Kirby got there and they started competing for championships, is that they've been able to beat you defensively because they can do it with a light box. They stop the run with 4 men in the box, not having to add 5, 6, even 7 guys to the box or in, the area of the box in order to be able to stop you. You want to have a numbers advantage when it all boils down to it. And wherever you get the numbers advantage kind of decides on what you're going to do. But if you're one-dimensional, then they'll never have to do that. If you're not committed to the run, they'll never have to do that. And if they can stop your run game with a light box like they do a lot of people and get pressure on the quarterback with the light box, then that puts you in a bad situation offensively. That's how you end up being in the hundreds in rushing and scoring and yards overall. That's how you end up ranked there at the end of the year. Wishbone 2 plays a game. Hey, man, it wouldn't bother me. Just a tip of the cap to the king right there. Hate chatting around this morning, but just gotta talk at you later in the week. All right, brother. Have a good one. Appreciate you. Yeah. That's what happens. And that's how they've beaten teams that's how they've always beaten teams. What up, Liberty Bibberty? Good to see you, man. The Astro from space. Been a while, man. Good to see you. Welcome into the show. Dave's here. They wants to win because they want to win the game, not because of the glory of the SEC. Oklahoma wants to win the game because they want to win. Yeah. Yeah, because you're going to the big house, and that's a big feather to have in your cap if you can go in there and come out with a win. You know? That's, I mean, this, make no mistake, this isn't the same Michigan team that you played last year anyway. Now, I would tell you that, you got some of their players, you wonder if they're going to be good enough, but I think year two of Bryce Underwood, they're better, especially that they've got the coaching staff that they got. You believe in what they're going to be under Coach Witt, which is disciplined, hard-nosed. They're going to be physical. It's a good test for Oklahoma, but you need to go in there and win that test. It doesn't have anything to do with the glory of the SEC for damn sure. That's correct. Oklahoma by a TD against Georgia. Hey, man, I would love that. Again, I think you need to win one of those games. I think you have to beat Michigan, and I think you need to win one of the games versus Texas and Georgia. Got to do it. Got to do it. Otherwise, it puts you in a bad position for the rest of the year. It just does. I think that if you're one loss, you still got some, room to breathe with 7 games to go. And post Texas, you don't have any bye weeks to, get a breather or, get your feet back underneath you or anything like that. So we're talking about 7 straight weeks of football after that, added, with the 9-game schedule and all that stuff. And you got tough ones on the road at Florida, on the road at Mississippi State, obviously home against Ole Miss and A&M. These are games that theoretically they're going to be tough. You need to hold serve at home, but you've got a home game against Kentucky too. You need to win these games. But if you don't think that a home game or a road game at Mizzou at the end of the year is going to be tough, or a home game against A&M, the week before that, they're going to be tough games. A&M doesn't want to come in and get their ass whipped in Norman the week before they got to go and host Texas either. I think we're going to see a situation where, I know a lot of people are looking at that being a huge game at the end of the year. I'm not sure that I believe both of the teams are going to be in contention at that point. I don't believe that they are. And again, you guys know what I think about A&M. I don't see how they can just reload and be the same football team when they've got a lot tougher slate than what they had, especially in the conference last season, coming up this year. They're going to play a bunch of tough opponents going into that. So, and they've got, a bunch of new linemen, new lead back, Marcel, and a new offensive coordinator that it's his first time play calling. I just think it's crazy. Hey, man, appreciate you, Shawty. Thanks for coming in, my guy. Ready to see EPL light somebody up. Yeah. Who isn't? Question for Shawty. What does OU need to do for you to get concerned about that game? Oh, he's concerned. I bet you he is. We're gonna have plenty to talk about with Shawty coming up. I think that was him saying he had to get out of here. Non-com matters until you lose them. Yeah. They matter. The games matter, especially if you lose them. But again, it's not. I think if you're in Oklahoma or Texas, you're not thinking about non-con in terms of SEC versus the Big Ten at all. Maybe you are about Mississippi State at this point, Mississippi State and Minnesota. Neither one of those teams are you expecting to be a playoff contender. Maybe Minnesota. I know there's a couple of people that are kind of picking them to, I think they won 8 games or 9 last year. So it's one of those teams that people are kind of like, hey, maybe they can be one of those dark horses out of the Big Ten. I tend to doubt it. I think PJ Fleck's a weirdo, and maybe they had I hadn't overly studied their schedule overall, The times that I saw him last year, I wasn't overly impressed though, and I did see him a couple of times, but I think there's better football teams than that. What are my thoughts on OU doing split from the shotgun? I mean, are you talking about, a split backfield and that kind of stuff? I don't care how you do it. Put two backs in the backfield anytime you want to, whether you're in the shotgun or under center. I think the main thing is like what Coach Rick says is make sure you do some play action stuff. I think play action works a lot better from under center. You know what I mean? It always works better from under center. But it all, I think a lot of that, and Coach would probably tell you this too, being a former OC, is a lot of it is sequencing and how you set it up, the way that you base that offense, right? You have to build on the play calling, right? And we've heard Gabe talk about this a bunch. You set up, and like for instance, and it's kind of a joke around Oklahoma circles about the jet sweep under Jeff Lebby and so on, to where he ran the jet sweep all the time, but he never had anything vertical going off of that, to where you could build off of that jet sweep. Everybody knew what was coming. They knew it was coming one time a game. They knew what to look for, and they always seemed to stop it, right? Particularly after game 1 or 2 or something like that. You hadn't seen as much of it the last couple of years, but I don't have a problem with the jet sweep. What I have a problem with is that you don't ever run anything that looks like the jet sweep and then hit a vertical shot to a tight end or something, or have where you fake it and the quarterback takes it from there because everybody's going after the jet sweep guy. You could go the other way on like a counter run, a quarterback counter run. There's lots of ways, but that's what you want to do with everything that you're doing. So whatever it is, if you're running split back and you're running out of it, then you turn and you have some play action with the same look. That's how you're going to get some chunk plays. And I think that that's just sequencing and building off of what it is that you have as like a foundation, whatever the foundation is of that certain set or whatever. That's kind of where I'm at on it. Yeah. Yeah, well, Witten, they were both kind of talking about it. They were both kind of talking about Buckle being open to the conversation, right? And whether or not, I think what Witten said was something to the effect of whether he wants to hear, whether he likes what he's hearing or not, and wants to do what I'm, talking about or not, doesn't really matter. The fact is he's open to the conversation. Cool. I love to hear that. And from what it sounds like, he's been open to the things that Kevin Wilson brings to the table, which is lots of experience with and running offenses that are among the best in the country. We talk about the one season, the main season for Oklahoma where DeMarco was the running back. You had Jermaine Gresham. Joe John was on that team. You had stud tight ends. You had some amazing receivers as well. This is the team that wins the jump around game against Tech, goes to the national championship game and loses to Florida and Tim Tebow, right? And they had chances to win that game too. But generally considered the best Oklahoma offense of the Stoops era for sure. I think it was. They ran the shit out of the ball. Obviously, when DeMarco had it going, look out. He could put up a lot of yards in a short order. Definitely one of the best running backs I've seen during my adulthood from Oklahoma. So I think that when you have a guy like that and you had McCullough and Wilson work together, and then obviously with Jason Witten coming from the NFL, being a surefire Hall of Famer, probably a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? This is a guy that gets it. And you've heard his former teammates talking about him being a mentor in that room. He's been a head coach. You hear people talking about he's going to be a head coach at the college level or maybe the NFL level probably before too long. So if you're Ben Arbuckle, you're smart to listen to this guy, right? Things that have worked at the next level with us and how we did well running the football and what things that I'd like to see our tight ends doing to help us do some things. You should be listening. When it comes to Wilson and McCullough, not just Wilson as the OC, but obviously he was the head coach when he left Oklahoma at Indiana, and Dalen was his running back coach. They had a 1,500-yard rusher there. He's had 1,000, 12, 1,300-yard rushers pretty much everywhere he's been as a running back coach. He's somebody worth listening to, right? I mean, that's the hope. Anyway. Yeah. I think Michigan's going to be good anyway. I think you're going to have. It's not going to be an easy win. I think and I don't think that Oklahoma's going to go into it overlooking them because they won last season. The last season doesn't mean shit, by the way. Doesn't mean anything. So Sandell wins the game against Georgia. It's good to have a good kicker on the road, man. It's good to have a clutch guy on the road a guy that's had success in a road environment like that. Tennessee having 2 plus 50-yard field goals. I don't know how much I'd call this a hot take there, DJ, but I like it. I like the thought. One tight end is going to be a big help, even just having one. Yeah, no doubt. Hate the bye week. Wish they gave it to us both 2 weeks later. You don't want to think about Longhorns are going to beat Ohio State. I mean, I think you should. Yeah, they do. Texas loves to see us beat on A&M right before they play them. Of course. Well, and Oklahoma if Oklahoma could put a beating on A&M like they've been known to do traditionally, yeah, that doesn't put them in a good headspace headed into the Lone Star Showdown at all. It just tells them that they're still third wheel when it comes to that, whatever. Yeah. I think we played LSU before Aggie too. Oh yeah, I was going to say you got a tough one the week before as well. I just was Really Flawed was talking about that with the LSU guys that she just had on. I forget that guy's name. That was a good show though, by the way too. Shout out to Really Flawed one more time. True Okie, what up, my guy? Well, A&M's Oklahoma's little brother too, or they used to be. Been a long time though. I don't feel like it's going to be an easy game, but I think you should win. Yeah. The new OC was moving the ball against a good Michigan defense at New Mexico with ass talent. Yeah. I forgot that was the OC that you got was the guy from UNM. Yeah, man. Well, and I mean, that team went and they ended up tying for the conference championship for the regular season. They didn't get to play for it, but they were right there. I don't think they only had like 1 or 2 losses. Yeah. Lloyd Avant. Everybody's been talking about him a lot, and even Rocky Beers was talking about him a little bit, from what I understand. He looked good. He looked good in the spring game as well. I mean, a guy that has experience, is a good thing, right? It's a good thing. I mean, this is a 5th-year senior guy getting an opportunity, coming in with a lot of. You got to be excited when you get a shot to come to a place like Oklahoma and you've been at Colorado State. It tells you that you've had some time, you've obviously progressed throughout your young career at that lower level in the G6 like that. And to be able to get recruited and come to a place like OU it's pretty legit, man. So it's exciting for him, I'm sure, but that's the kind of dude that you need to. I mean, look, man, injuries happen. Torrey Blaylock obviously having the pulled hammy or whatever. I wouldn't worry too much about that. We saw him play through an injury the entirety of last year. I hope they don't rush him back too early from this to where he's not ready to go when the season starts, because that's really what matters. But I think that Torrey's going to be great. I think that he's added the weight. We know he's explosive. My feeling is, and I've seen X-Rob not stay healthy. So I'm worried. If I want anything out of X-Rob, it's I know that he can run. I know that he can be a stud. I want to see him stay healthy and be around for the entirety of the season. That's where I feel like if you're really going to end up seeing Jonathan Hatton be that guy, it's probably going to be because X-Rob or Torrey has been not available as they should be, right? That being said, if they are allowing Dalen McCullough to kind of control who's playing at what time or whatever, and he's seeing a lot of things from Hatton, he could go to him. He doesn't have to. The one thing about him is that he doesn't have to have any. He doesn't have to play favorites with any of them. He didn't recruit any of them to Oklahoma, right? He didn't. I mean, by the time that he got here, the roster was set. So that's my feeling on it, is that he's going to go with the best guy in the room because that's the best thing that he can do for the team. I think at the end, again, that's all provided that he's the one that gets to make that decision. Love two-back sets. Yeah. What up, Duke? Where you been? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. There's another offensive coordinator. Shout out to Duke. Let's go 12 personnel I formation. Ooh. Well, that'd be 22 personnel, wouldn't it, Coach? Did you? I saw that. It's been about a month ago that I saw it, but I watched it too. I was there. I was covering the game. No, I don't think it's. And I mean, even Wilson's more of an air raid guy too. No, I don't. I think you're going to see some of it. I think you're going to see some under center stuff. But to be fair, Ben Arbuckle ran some I formation stuff last year. We saw a couple of things. I mean, mostly against like Kent State, things like that. But you saw a couple of times where he got material under center. Never, it seemed like in the games that against really big opponents. But we'll kind of have to wait and see what happens. But I don't know what's going to really happen as far as that's concerned. And I wouldn't expect them to change. That's not what we're hearing, is that they're completely changing the offense. I think that they have some packages where they're going to do certain things and they're going to see how it works. I think the main thing that they're trying to establish is that they want to run the damn football, and they're going to find a way to do it. So now, if they can't find a way to run the ball out of the shotgun effectively, then I would hope they do. But at the end of the day, this is an air raid guy. This is an air raid guy. He's not, and as long as he's the coordinator, no, I don't think that you're going to see them turn into a pro style offense. I just don't. Third ward of Houston, so I can never hate Oklahoma. Aubrey Beavers and Gerald Moore are names I looked up to in person. Hey man, those dudes are ballers. Houston Cats too. I like it. Third ward too. All right. Iglesias. Ooh. Yes, sir. Man, I'm way behind you guys here. Early word on how Bentley looks. All I've heard about it is what I saw in the spring game, and it's more that, and what we've heard is that, well, Brent Venables basically said that Whit Neubauer is going to be the number 2 at SEC Media Days. It makes sense because of what it was. The game looked fast for Bentley in the spring game. And by the way, they were going up against the number 1s. He was in there playing against the number 1 defense, and Venables was testing him, throwing safety blitzes and stuff. I mean, Boganowski could have blew him up, and of course they blow the whistle or whatever. I mean, he could have killed him. But it's so, I mean, and you have to understand that, I mean, what do you expect him to do against the number 1 defense? Not much. But that tells you And it just looked like the game was sped up for him, right? It just did. It was different when Witt was in there. He was able to kind of move the ball. He did some good things. Um, I liked what Witt Neubauer looked like. He had that long run in the spring game as well. But I would tell you that at the end of the day, you don't want to. More times than not, true freshmen aren't going to be ready. And we're talking about a true freshman that came from Texas 4A, not 6A, where you've got it where you played against a bunch of SEC guys. Where it should take time for Bo Bentley to get ready. It should take time. So, and it will, but everything I understand is that it sounds like it's Witt Neubauer is the number 2. I don't know. I haven't heard much about Bo Bentley in the first few days of fall camp. So I don't know. But if it looks anything like it looked in the spring, the game was fast for him. And it should be. Again, it should be. Been busy, yeah. I figured you were, man. Figured you were. You're getting into season, getting ready. What up there, S4L? D-Max Bravo. There's my seatbelt dog again. Teddy doesn't always praise defense a lot. He absolutely loves our set. It's so impressive. He said they're way ahead of where they were this time last year, as far as he was concerned. Which I like hearing that from Teddy because, yeah, he's not big on seatbelt, like seatbelt saying here. He's not huge on just doling out praise for the defense. He'll tell you when it's not great. Scooby Shaggy, where is this coming from? Defense travels, man. Defense travels for sure. He does have a big arm. Was it Mercer that he was at? I was thinking it was that other former SCF school, but I think you're right. Could be the bridge quarterback in 2027 if Bentley wasn't ready. Well, if Bentley's not ready, they'll probably hit the portal. And I think you need to hit the portal after this season either way. I think you do because I think if you expect Bentley to be ready, I mean, he will have to have shown something significant, but how many chances is he going to get to, unless you see Mateer get hurt and then like Witt be ineffective, how many opportunities would he have had this season to show you he's ready to be the starter as a true sophomore? So my mind is, and then you've got another really good young guy coming in, but it feels like this would be a year that you see Oklahoma jump in the portal again to find a quarterback that's ready to go right away. Unless Witt were to, if Mateer were to get hurt and Witt comes in and proves that he's the guy over a stretch, then maybe you stick with him. But I don't know. I think that's a gamble. I think it's a gamble. You know what? That's a good question. I'm not sure. I know that this is his 5th year already, so I don't think so. But I don't think so. I think that he's already played 5 years. This will be 5 years because he redshirted, and then this is year 4 with Buckle and Kuzieski coaching him. So I don't think so. I don't think he would get another. Lebby's on the ref? That's cool. I'll have to get over there and check that out later. Is it kickoff yet? Oh, man, not yet, but I can't wait. Jackson freaking Arnold. What about him? Who brought it out? Oh, Lord. All right, I'm moving on to what I was about to talk about. Let me take a quick break. We'll be right back to kind of shut this down and finish off the show, but I'll be right back. Hall of Fame college football fans, rep the pod the same way you rep your team. The official Hall of Fame college football pod merch store is live with gear built for Saturdays, watch parties, tailgates, and every We Told You So moment. Grab your t-shirts, polos, hoodies, caps, bucket hats, and more. And show everybody that you're part of the Hall of Fame college football squad. Whether you're rocking it on campus, at the bar, or from the couch, this is your uniform for college football season. Go get yours at hofmedia.us/pod-merch. That's hofmedia.us/pod-merch. Hall of Fame College Football Pod merch. Gear up, talk ball, and rep the crew. Are you tired of your game day gear looking like it's stuck in the offseason? Well, step up your fandom with Hall of Fame College Football's official Fanatics partner store. Whether you're a diehard Oklahoma Sooners fan like myself, bleeding crimson and cream, or you rep another one of the SEC's heavy hitters, Fanatics has you covered. Shop thousands of officially licensed hats, jerseys, sideline polos, and exclusive championship merch from the entire Power 4 and Group of 6 too, all shipped directly to your doorstep and fast. Want to gear up like your favorite coaches and players? Are you looking for that perfect tailgate tee or a statement piece for your man cave? Fanatics is your one-stop shop for authentic college football gear from everybody that plays the game. So do yourself and your team a favor. Click our link in the description or simply log on to hofmedia.us/fanatics. That's hofmedia.us/fanatics. And you can shop everything that you want for the best prices of the day right on our Fanatics partner page. All right, I'm back. Come back. I just saw something here. Hey, Duke, I love this. Congratulations on the kid, by the way. And I didn't even know that about Baker naming his son Maverick. My grandson's name is Maverick as well. So that's pretty awesome. Talking about Witt, highest rated quarterback against Bama while at Mercer by PFF for what that's worth. He was on the money. A lot of drops though. Yeah. I saw some of that that film from a couple of years back. Yeah, he was pretty good. He's a big guy, man. He has a huge arm. He's got a huge arm. So, I mean, not that he couldn't be good. It's just like I said, this is a time in college football that look, if he hasn't really pushed to be the starter at this point, do you expect him to just be that guy? Maybe. But I think you're going to have him prove it. That would be probably a bad situation for Oklahoma because they've lost Mateer for some reason, right? But not to say it can't happen. I mean, Sam Bradford only became a starter. I mean, he was a third stringer and kind of a afterthought by most accounts before he, became the guy. So, I mean, to me, something will have had to have happened that, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I just think that in this era, you're going to see them go to the portal and try to pick somebody up. What's that? Let's see. Needs to hire some models to rep his gear during his advertisements. That's a good idea. Man, I don't have a lot of money. I don't know, hiring people and shit. But if you guys go buy some of that gear and send me photos, model it. Buy it for your ladies, model it. Be awesome. I actually got some new stuff in there for you golfers out there. I've got with the Hall of Fame logo on a golf ball, that kind of stuff. And these are nice Adidas golf shirts. I just put one out there for all you folks that know that I started podcasting and all that kind of stuff because I was doing a Hall of Fame campaign for Otis Taylor that used to play for the Chiefs a long time ago, back in the merger era. They screwed him over again. So I put out a T-shirt the other day that he's still way past due for the Hall of Fame. Go there and check that out, especially if you're a Chiefs fan or if you just say the Hall of Fame's full of shit like I do. Sorry. But yeah, anyway. Thank you, Cherokee. And you did just bring up some old wounds. Shout out to Michael Hawkins. Sounds like he's doing pretty good in fall camp right now. And he looked really good in the spring for West Virginia as well. So excited about what it might look for him. I really do. Let's see. Got your season tickets back in S4L. Got season tickets. Oh, you're not going after all, Coach? Tickets to the first game, seats behind the football team. I won't be able to make it. Trying to sell them. I might if I might grab them from you, Coach. If I don't have media passes by then, I'm working on it. It's something I got to take a look at though. Gunnar Stockton. Oh, good question. How good is he? If we shut down Georgia's run game, can he score 30 with his arm? Bro, I think people are sleeping on Gunnar Stockton. That dude was good last year. He was good in the loss to Ole Miss. Good in the win earlier in the year against them. He was good in the loss. That dude's a baller, man. And his, you know what? And I'm going to go look this up because we're going to do another. Obviously, we'll be doing a deep dive on them leading up into the game. But I saw some stats the other day that are ridiculous. Like them when they were down 14 points or whatever, and he had like 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. I don't want to get them all wrong, but his completion percentage and touchdowns versus interception ratio from, when they were losing games or in games that were tight in the fourth quarter is ridiculous. So the fact that people kind of do sleep on him, look, what they do on offense doesn't lend itself for him being really like a Heisman guy. Because they're not going to throw the ball like that. They're just not. But when he needs to make a play, he's been able to make a play with his legs too. Gunnar Stockton's a bad dude, man. He's a bad dude. I think people are crazy that sleep on that guy. I really do. Let's see. OU football doomed forever. Who's this? I don't know who this dude is. Another 6-6 season? Yikes. There had to have been some bad shit going on if that happened. There had to be some bad shit going on if that happens. Yeah. Super overlooked. He is. Yeah, but he doesn't throw a ton of them though either. That's the thing, Hammer. He just they don't. They haven't. They had obviously Zachariah Branch last year, and he had a great season, by the way. I mean, he got himself into, was it late first round or early second, one of that, but he was a high draft pick. Stud, man. And when he was at USC, Lincoln wasn't getting him on the field hardly as a receiver. He was using him as a returner a lot. But he had a big year last year for him. To me, I've seen him take some shots and hit them. You know what I mean? And especially clutch. Clutch gunner is who you want to see. He's been playing really good. Yeah. He is doing really good. Look, another 6-6 season is a bad. I think for it to get to that point. I think for it to get to that point, there's had to have been some serious injury issues. Probably your quarterback, linemen, running backs, whatever. To me, it would have to be like the first year in the SEC where you had basically you wholesale changed out the O-line throughout the year. You lost like 6 receivers and didn't really have much of a run game to begin with. I just think that's what it would have to take. And I don't know that I really see that. Now, could I see him being, struggling in some of these games? And if you have a bunch of 1-score games, you lose going 8-4? Sure. I think that any one of these top 7 or 8 teams that people are talking about that could be playoff contenders in the SEC could do that too. Any of them. Even Georgia. And although you don't expect it from Georgia because they should have credibility that they just don't do that. But at the end of the day, I would tell you that I don't think that it's out of the realm for anybody in there. You know, LSU, everybody plays everybody else. So that's the thing. All these contenders, I think there's only a couple that don't play each other. Oklahoma playing Texas A&M, Texas, Georgia, Florida, you know, being one of those dark horse schools. Ole Miss. You know, you're playing all these teams. And most of those teams are playing everybody else too. I think, you know, we can do like a schedule deep dive, but you go and look at everybody's schedule, it's going to be tough. A&M playing a tougher conference schedule by a long shot than they played last year. Same with Missouri. You know, there's a lot of people that are all of a sudden starting to talk more about South Carolina because this is an even number year, and that's when Shane Beamer seems to do good. Plus, they were 9-3 2 years ago with largely the same roster that they have. Plus, Kendall Briles coming into the fold. He should be good for helping them put an offense on the field that I don't know that their offensive line is going to be that good or good enough to kind of push them to a playoff berth or real contention for the playoffs. I think the ceiling for South Carolina is probably around 7 or 8 games, you know, winning 7 or 8. But you know, that's because you think a lot of Lenore Sellers, right? And Dylan, what's his name on the other side? They should be pretty decent on the defensive end. At the end of the day, I just don't know that I see that. But again, you have a lot of these games against teams that theoretically should give you a hard time. People want to sleep on Mississippi State. They could have beaten Tennessee, should have beaten Tennessee, should have beaten Texas last season with Blake Shapen playing quarterback. It's just a fact. They have a better quarterback. They have Zach Arnett coming back to be the defensive coordinator. The best defenses that they've had in the last decade were under Zach Arnett. Great hire by Leb. I think Lebby hiring a buddy of his that had never been a DC calling plays, and his first job being as a DC in the SEC was a bad decision on his part. Just like I think that it's the same bad decision on the part of Mike Elko to just go with a brand new play caller in the, you know, first time ever being an OC in the SEC with a team that's largely new when it comes to starters. I just think it's a bad idea. But bringing in a guy like Arnett, they're going to be a pain in the ass. You know, Will Stein, his offenses are legit. Kenny Minchie looked like, I mean, for all intents and purposes, they say that he made it a quarterback battle with CJ Carr all the way down to the last week or so of fall camp last year at Notre Dame. A lot of people thought that he was a better option because of his dual threat nature. They've got some guys at Kentucky as well. You know, we know if Nick Anderson's healthy that he's a threat. CJ Baxter, when he's healthy, he's a hell of a running back. Can they stay healthy is the question. But you have to expect teams like that to screw up somebody's season. If we really believe that the SEC is a deeper league, you have to know that that's going to happen to someone. But 6-6, I don't really think that that's on the table for Oklahoma without catastrophic injury or something like that. I just don't really see it. Yeah, 6. I saw you say that on Jay's show last night, Marshall. I'm not sure why you keep saying that because they're not. Georgia's receivers are actually, they got a transfer dude that's a stud. And they've got a 5-star guy that they're expecting stuff from in his second year there. So I would tell you that that's not true. But I get what people are saying. And here's the thing. Does it matter who their receivers are when they haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver? I don't know when the last time. This has been a long time. I don't think they've done it at all under Kirby. Right? I don't think they've done it at all under Kirby. They've won 2 national championships and they're back-to-back SEC champions. I don't think the receiver thing is that big a deal for them. We will win number 8 if Mateer stays healthy. I wanted to have a caveat to that there, seatbelt. But I like where your head is. One team I can see losing multiple games by 10 plus is Arkansas. Yeah. We'll see, man. We'll see about that. I like this idea. Look, if they're good in the run game, things are going to be really good. What you question is when you get into one of those crunch time games, playoff situation, SEC championship, or trying to get into the SEC championship game, and you got a tight one. What are you going to do? How does Mateer handle it? That's the biggest question that you have. And I think that's you're not going to find that out in camp. But let me get back to some of that, what we're talking about. Look, obviously talking about the Mateer reset, what he does is going to matter a lot. They don't need him to be Superman. We've said that a bunch. I think you need to keep him within the confines of what you're trying to do. And he needs to do a better job of reading the defense and what they're going to do and taking what's given to him. Don't try to do too much. Don't try to get out of what you're seeing or try to force things. Rely on your running game. And be able to rely on your defense giving you another shot. Throw the ball out. Somebody said it earlier. Throw that ball into the stands. Do some stuff like that. Keep yourself healthy. If he makes better decisions with the ball, then that's the big thing. Make better decisions. But if they don't put him in a position where he has to be Superman, it's a better situation for them. Because you can build confidence throughout the year. Look, you take some deep shots and, let's say one of these games against one of the main contenders in the first 5. He goes out there and throws for 300 yards because they've had a good run game. And it opens up the deep shot. So, and it's, let's think of it in terms of like an efficient 250 or 300 yards, a couple of touchdowns. These are the kind of games that build your confidence. That's what's going to matter towards the end of the year. I think that's what you're going to need to see. Now, I wanted to go back to this. Let me share this real quick. Let's see this. This one's kind of funny, though, too. Leave it to Emmanuel Acho. And Bevo's bodyguard, too. To be the ones to say stupid shit like this. All right. So it is a great catch. I mean, obviously, you guys say it's a great catch. But if you're looking at it, it's a duck. Looks like it could have been tipped. If not, then if that's not a tipped football right there, then you got to wonder what the hell's going on with Arch all of a sudden. But what a grab. As you see, there's nobody around him. Nobody in the secondaries around him. So I don't know if they were going up against the scout team or who the hell all that is. But I wouldn't expect for Cam Coleman to be all by himself over the middle of the field against Oklahoma in Dallas. Yep, Texas is winning the national championship, according to Acho. I got to say, I love this shit, by the way. I love it. Makes me happy to see it. Because it's just the kind of overreaction and glazing that you hear all the time. But let's translate it. Big Texas hype translation. Obviously, incredible catch. So everybody's going to say he's ran. We just heard it from From Bevo's bodyguard. Arch Manning has a Randy Moss. We know he's good, right? The pass had to have been tipped, I would think. But, Texas translation, the pass was tipped, but in the Texas translation, they're saying, oh, yeah, that's unstoppable innovation by Sark. Okay. Unstoppable or what happened? Nobody was tackling anybody either. So, I mean, even the guy that finally runs in at the end, the secondary dude that kind of creeps through there at the end of that play, he wasn't going to hit him, because he couldn't hit him. But Texas translation, national championship confirmed. First 4 days of fall camp, Texas translation, we're back. Right? It's and the thing is on top of that, it's not even just Texas. It's all the Texas Glazers that are out there. It's hilarious. I'm telling you one thing. All this shit talking and all this, they've got the best roster. They went and spent all this money. Cam Coleman is now Jeremiah Smith 2.0. Maybe he's better than Jeremiah Smith. I've heard that one too. If
you take your top lip and connect it to your bottom lip, you will shut the fuck up.
But make no mistake.
The brand has finally returned. Fuck your brand.
There you go. Anyway. At the end of the day, Texas has accomplished something truly remarkable. They've won the 2026 national championship before OU even had its first padded practice. Beautiful stuff. Awesome. All right, let's get back to real football. Cam Coleman scares me, by the way. He's a stud. We know he's a stud. Now, something that was good to hear on Teddy and Gabe talking about it last night, the secondary, that was the one thing Teddy was talking about. The secondary is ahead of where it was at this time last year. He feels like the guys that you're gonna see, he saw them doing the right things. And, we've heard Boganowski talk about this. You've heard Powers talking about this. In fact, Teddy and Gabe, they had their X factors that they picked, I think, late last week when they were talking about some of this stuff. Like ESPN had put out X factors for teams around the country, whatever it was, but they had chosen somebody different, and they chose their defensive guys. They picked Powers and Boganowski. I love it. And the thing is, you've heard what Boganowski said on, earlier, I think it was during last week, when he was talking about learning from Billy Bowman. When Big Mike has been on the show, we've done the show together for the last 2 years, basically, and I'm trying to get him back on, by the way, some. I don't know how much we'll get him, but because of his job situation and that kind of stuff. But that was the first thing that he said to Mike whenever he went to Oklahoma was, be a sponge and stay around Billy. Soak up everything you can from this guy. And he brought that up himself, that, that was something that he tried to do, and learning from the older guys that have kind of passed the torch along, that's a big deal. So, yeah, am I worried about Cam Coleman? Absolutely. I think the whole country should be. And certainly the teams that Texas is going to play. He ain't gonna sneak up on anybody. There's never going to be a time that he runs across the middle like you just saw on that clip and doesn't have Boganowski, Powers, Kip Lewis ready to knock his damn head off. Open yourself up trying to catch a ball like that over the middle against Oklahoma. Probably not going to be playing for the rest of the game. Someone going to light your ass up. You would say the same thing about an Oklahoma receiver running across the middle, trying to catch a ball like that during a game. Practice doesn't mean nothing. It's cool. It's a great clip. Cool for them. But it's just another one of those deals that, oh my God, you know. Is he the best receiver in the SEC this year? I'll ask you, will buy or sell that? Do you buy or sell Cam Coleman is the best receiver in the SEC in 2026? Let me know what you think in the comments section. All right. Now, the next storyline, obviously, offensive line. Everything that we're talking about with Batir, with the running back situation, it all boils down to how well does the offensive line improve from last season. As we talked about, they looked a lot better at the end of the season anyway. But you go out and you add tight ends to the mix that can block. That's an extension of your O-line. And now these guys that were very young last season are a year older. You know, we've heard good things about everybody on it, you know, from obviously Michael Fasusi being a freshman All-American, coming in as a second-team All-SEC guy as a true sophomore. Then you've got EPL, who they took to media days because they love what he's done in the offseason and the progression that he's made. You've heard that Jake Michael might be the best of all of them as far as how far did he improve the jump that he made in his second season at Oklahoma. Then obviously Ryan Foji, the other true freshman that played a lot of snaps on that O-line as a freshman last season. You know, he's seems to be holding down that guard position on the right side. Then you have a guy like Emarion Harris that comes in from Arkansas, and he's had a ton of starts in the SEC. He feels like, and to hear him talk, he's learned a lot from Coach Biedenbow, and he's excited about where he's at. Everybody said that he's made that job his. He owns that right tackle position as long as he's healthy. It's good to hear. If this offensive line is as good as what we're hearing and what you expect it to be, and they just take a step forward, Oklahoma can reach all their goals. We talked about this. You know? I think it's huge. Physicality is great. The chemistry seems to be really good. Their communication, you know, I don't know. But move somebody from, you know, and the other thing is that you can say, well, now we got to see them do it against an SEC front like what you're going to see against Georgia. I don't know that the Georgia front is better than the Oklahoma front. In fact, I'll tell you it isn't. So it's also you're baptizing these guys by fire day after day in fall camp. And Coach Venables has talked about we're gonna make sure that this offense is tough, like the defense. I think that there's a fine line that you need to walk there if you're Brent and, you know, the entire staff as far as like how much hitting we're doing, shit like that. But there's definitely something to say about getting some good one-on-one O-line against D-line stuff for sure. The next storyline, I know people were talking a lot last night, and I love this conversation that they were having on Jay and Coop. Where they were talking about who's wide receiver number 2. Coop said it, and I was thinking it when he said it. Is it Isaiah Satania? I know everybody's calling Isaiah Satania wide receiver number 1, and this is no shade at Isaiah Satania, by the way. He's a stud. Explosive, track speed, Olympic track speed at that. The guy's a bad dude. But playing out of the slot, you're not really, that's not where wide receiver 1 usually comes from. It's usually a big-time outside threat. Now, I'm not calling it for Parker Livingston either. I ain't Trell Harris. Let's go back and find, you know what, I want to find that video that I had before. This guy is a bad dude. Trell Harris is a bad dude. If you look at some of his film from last year and what he did at Virginia in the last few years, the guy is just a straight up animal. He's pretty good size, but you know, he runs well behind his pads. He's explosive. He makes some great catches and stuff like that, but you know, not afraid of contact. That's not the one I was looking for, but maybe let me show that one too. See if we can find the other one. But I really think Trell Harris is going to be your guy at number one, and I think that's a good situation to be in, because if you don't know who the number one target is, then neither does the opponent. That's if you're getting production from two people. Obviously, you need to have more than one person getting production. But I think you're gonna. The guy is good running through traffic. He catches the ball with his hands. Love what I've seen from this dude. I think he's a stud, man. And I mean, 90 catches last year. That's insanity. Just insanity. But so the question was, who's wide receiver number 2? And I don't know. I think it could be Isaiah Sategna. I would also tell you that I think that if Parker Livingston is using his hands and able to bring in some of those balls we saw him drop last year, he's a big dude, 6'4". The guy's got all kinds of talent. All kinds of talent. This guy makes some grabs. There's another one for Trell. Another minute long one here. Let me do this one too. There we go. I'll show that a little bit too while we get some of these comments up. I mean, look at this running through. Look at that, breaking tackles. I love watching that guy. Sleeping on Sooners. Emmett Jones coaching for his job this year, and whatever, bro. I'm not buying any of this stuff about these coaches are in trouble and that coach is in trouble. You haven't heard that from anybody inside the staff. Anybody inside of the hierarchy of OU. Even the insider stuff hasn't really pointed to Emmett being coaching for his job. It's just a bunch of fans talking shit on Twitter. You remember when they didn't have Emmett Jones, when they fired Kel Gundy, and how bad they were at receiver that year? Outside of, one guy. What they looked like the next year, they were a lot better. It's not about him. He recruits as well as anybody. I think Jaden Petit has been showing that he might be I was just reading something that Parker put out there on Sooner Scoop that he was talking about that he's really shown up really well the first few the first few days of practice, and they said that he's been getting better throughout since the spring. We're talking about another guy, 6'4", big target guy with big hands, explosive. Manny Choice is another guy, 6'4", stud, runs like a deer, catches everything. Could he be stepping into this number 2 role for Oklahoma at receiver? The one thing I know is this: there's a lot of dudes that could be that guy. A lot of dudes that could be that guy. Now, is it time? I mean, we've heard, we heard what Jim Nagy had to say about they're not going to continue spending a bunch of money on guys from high school and in the portal if he's not going to start seeing some production out of guys from high school, giving them some opportunities, which says let's have more of a rotation. If you're looking at it right now and you've got the amount of guys with experience in the SEC or at the Power 4 level, you have to expect that Trell Harris is going to play a lot. Isaiah Sategna was the number 1 receiver on the team. He's a all SEC guy. He's explosive. He seemed to put up big plays when you had to have him last year. I would suspect that that he could still be the number one option for John Mateer. But I wouldn't be surprised if one of these outside guys were instead as well. Again, Livingston, he was coming in, he got a little banged up during the spring. Didn't see a ton of him in the spring game, at least not getting the ball thrown his way. He was learning the offense too. I think he's going to be really good. It's another guy that's got size and speed, and I would expect, probably expect him to have a game in the Red River, right? One of those games that he's definitely got circled like everybody else, but he's going to have that circled and wanting to show out why, you guys should have kept me around. I expect you'll see some games like that from him. I think he's a great player. But I think that there's a lot of dudes, Elijah Thomas, we hadn't really talked about. This is a dude that you expect something from him at some point. Again, petite. There's a lot of dudes that you should be talking about. So, see. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Wide receiver won't be wherever the other team's CB1 is not. Go back and forth each week from Satania and Trell. Trell will get double coverage a lot. I think you would expect for him to get look. But the thing is that double coverage didn't always do a whole lot for him. The guy's a stud, man. You'll believe what when you see it, Mr. B? I don't know who you are. It's the first time you're in here, so. Are you an Oklahoma fan? Or are you just a troll? Or who? What are you talking about? He was really good for Virginia, right? Hammer? Stud. Don't get ahead of yourself, Sooner Cowboys. Torrey ain't going nowhere. He's happy where his brother's coming to Oklahoma next year. He hadn't lost the job. EJ's recruits can't seem to get on the field again. Do you think this is an EJ problem, or do you think this is a coordinator problem, which we've had a coordinator problem for the last 2 years? We believe so much in whatever it is that Ben Arbuckle is. Look, his stats. Whoops. His stats, his team stats and scoring and stuff like that in the first year, most of the rankings were close to 100 or in the hundreds in production. I know that we still believe, a lot of people still believe, he's got a lot to prove. The person that has a lot to prove as far as offensive staff is concerned is the quarterback coach and the coordinator. Just like the year before that, it was Seth Luttrell, Joe John Finley. They've been bad the last 2 years. It's not up to the standard at Oklahoma the last 2 seasons as far as offense is concerned. You can blame it on one guy, or you can realize that it's been everybody hasn't gotten it done, but it always goes to the top, and that even includes Brent Venables at that. He's the head coach of the football team. I think that's why he's made some of the changes that he's made. Personnel-wise, he's spent time working with John Mateer on reading defenses and what he's seeing coming from defenses and what they're looking at, trying to help his offense get better. These are things that you should be doing as a head coach. I think it's easy to sit here and blame DeMarco or EJ or a lot of people. Remember the last couple of years, what we've also got? A lot of let's fire Big Bill. He's only got more dudes making more money in the NFL than any offensive line coach in college. But yeah, he sucks. It's so easy to do that. But The boss of the offense is the offensive coordinator. He makes the decisions on who plays ultimately. Or if you want to go even further, Venables should be making that decision too. He should be in the decision-making process. I would absolutely agree with this part. Non-accuracy at the quarterback position, bad quarterback play overall than what I've seen out of the receivers being an issue. Injuries 2 years ago to the receivers. What is that, EJ's fault? That Anderson, Burks, Jalil Farouk, they all were down. Their best guys were all hurt. That's an EJ problem? That a bunch of freshmen weren't immediately explosive when they were all forced into. It's one thing to kind of work a freshman into the mix. It's one thing to have to rely on him. Totally different. I think it's wild the way that we like to do this as fans. First, like we know what's going on inside the walls. Because most of us don't. What you see on Twitter don't mean shit. Sometimes look, I would say this much, if they're allowing Dalen McCullough to tell you who's the best guy and they're working him in, I don't think you're going to see the freshman with getting 15 snaps or 15 attempts right out of the gate. I think you're going to work them in and find out how do they acclimate to the speed and to, how well do they play when you give them opportunities? Do they flash? But I also would tell you, here's the other thing I would also say. It's easy to blame or I don't even want to say blame. You probably shouldn't judge a ton of what you saw from even ex-Robin Torrey off of last season when you didn't have, number one, this year you're going to have a lot of different scheme. That duo run that, we've talked about, a lot of people have been talking about it. That seems to be going to be one of their main staple plays in the run game. The duo, that seems to, you can run a lot of different ways off of it, but it's a good run play. I would expect to see some counter trace stuff that, we know that Lincoln, the counter in Lincoln's offense, which is very similar to the offense that they run now, was huge. And if you have the right guys, you should be able to run it. And I think this offensive line is certainly mobile enough and nasty enough to be able to do that, especially when you add tight ends to the mix like what you have. Hayden Hansen is already a premier blocker in the SEC, already a premier blocker. Ask Colin Simmons. Right? Rocky Beers appears to be another guy that can be. Jack Van Dorsler, same thing. And running 12 personnel is going to allow you to get those guys on the field together and have some opportunities to kind of hit them both ways. Again, I think it's easy to, when something's not going right, pinpointing one person or one position coach, just think about this. In this live stream alone, I've now talked about 2 different position coaches at Oklahoma that have been blamed by somebody in the fan base on the show. And I've warned against it on both of them, including DeMarco. I know that people love to, and DeMarco's gone. It's easy that now that he's no longer here anymore to put it off on him and you want to believe in Dalen McCullough, blah, 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 blah. Fine. But if they're better, it's probably going to have something to do with the fact that they've done everything that they've done. They'll be better because Mateer is better at decision making. They'll be better because they are running 12 personnel and they're better at tight end to where they can do that and spring these guys. They're better because they have new scheming, to go along with it. They're better because Kevin Wilson has got a bigger say and he's got a shit ton of experience as a coordinator in calling offenses, and because Arbuckle is listening to him. They're better because they're healthier. Now, I just gave you a lot of reasons why they could be better because of all those things. But if they were not good at those things the last few years, there was a lot of bad things going on that offense. Not just one thing, a lot of shit. Young offensive line, injured offensive line, no tight ends, injured tight ends. Wide receivers were injured. Yeah, they weren't making plays. Quarterback that's not getting the ball out there to him. Inaccurate, scared to throw. How are we going to blame the receivers for Jackson Arnold being afraid to throw the ball? Yeah, all those dudes that are in there, why? Why are they there? Because of DeMarco? Absolutely. What up, Moonshine Bombardier? What's up, guy? Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Bombarder. Moonshine the Bombarder. Appreciate you, my guy. Whatever, man. All these guys that he's recruited, look, I'll tell you one that's already stepped. Since you're saying this, Sooner Cowboys, what have you been hearing what are you listening to out of all the guys that are talking the last week? Whether it be Teddy and Gabe or the Scoop guys or Jay and Coop. JP and Trav should be on this week. They're all talking about Manny Choice. It's a big dude that he recruited that we were starting to hear a lot of stuff about in the spring. He looked good in the spring, by the way. He's a monster. He's catching a lot of footballs. And he's apparently pushing for starting time. Even if he's in a rotation, and they have a rotation, which they didn't really have a rotation last year. Is that on EJ that they didn't have a rotation? Do you think maybe Nagy brought that up because the coordinator wasn't rotating guys? I think it might be that. Just saying. Hatton's a dude. I agree, man. And, okay, his best wide receivers have been through the portal. What the hell does that matter? Texas' best wide receivers through the portal right now. And not for nothing, but what the hell has Wingo done? He's been decent. Hasn't been great. He's not the number one guy. What are we talking about? We were hearing it all spring too. We were hearing it at the end of last season too. And that's why they were talking about why wasn't he playing? It is justified to talk about Manny Choice when everybody keeps bringing him up. It's not just one person talking about him. It's the entirety of the media that's getting to see and hear all these guys and what they're talking about. What's the news coming out of camp? That name keeps coming up. That name keeps coming up. He's a EJ recruit. I'm talking about it because it keeps coming up. You heard a lot about Gavin Freeman doing what? Why? Because he was a walk-on that got because he was a walk-on that got a freaking scholarship and he returned a punt in the first game against, what was it, UTEP, I think? Come on, bro. You're a bullshitter. I don't know who you are. I'm telling you now, I know that you're a hater as of what I can tell so far. Gavin Freeman. he steadily stopped producing. He was a walk-on. The expectation wasn't the damn same. I'm not talking about the same stuff. E.T., look, we've heard some stuff about him too, but not near what I've been hearing about Manny Choice. Not near what I've been hearing about Manny. But we'll see. I think that there's a going back to what I said at the end of the last little segment. The main thing is I think there's a lot of candidates for who's number 2 and even who's number 3. Who's going to get rotation time if they actually rotate these guys in and out? And if you get injuries, who's moving into that lineup? I think Trail Harris could definitely be the number 1 receiver. But you still had to go recruit him and get him to come on. And in view of the fact of what our offenses looked like the past 2 years, the fact that they've been able to get those guys into the building is wild. That we would still be talking smack about EJ so much. Never, bro. I think Manny Choice could absolutely, dude. What has Wingo done? What has Wingo done? Shut up, Benji. Trail Harris has been, apparently he's killing it, man. Look, I'm going to tell you, that's a dude right there. He reminds you a lot of, to me, he reminded me a lot of old boy that, why did I just lose his name? He went to Florida this year. He was at Auburn last year. They should have. Singleton, stud, right? Not a huge dude, spectacular catch guy, big catch radius, runs through trash pretty well. Good receiver, man. He's going to be a stud. He's not tiny. How tall is he? I need to grab this. I need to look at the roster real quick. Need to move after this anyways. He's a 6-footer, 6 foot, 203 pounds. 6 foot, 203 pounds. If you look at what he's done over the last few years, I mean, he fills up the stat book. There. Let's see. So last year, he had 59 receptions for 847. He averaged 14.4 yards per reception, 5 touchdowns, including a 75-yarder. Only 15 receptions the year before that, but he averaged 14.7 yards per catch. The 2023, he had 26 receptions for 400 yards, 15 yards per catch. He's steadily been coming on, but I think in 2024, he was hurt for quite a bit of that. Last year, though, 59 catches, that's pretty big. That's pretty big, right? So obviously, cumulatively, his overall, he was at Kent State those first few years. So he's got 113 receptions in his career, averaging over 14 yards per catch, 1,600 yards total, 9 touchdowns. Last 2 years being at Virginia, and last year as a true, like he was a starter the whole time. I think Trail's going to be a good one. Jermichael Carter, look, I like what Jermichael looked like at the end of the year. I see him as a depth piece more than anything. I think that when you start looking at the guys that are coming, I could be wrong, but I don't expect him to be like one of your big starters, to be quite honest with you. Do I think he's pretty good? I do. And I think that receivers, look, man, there's a bunch of really good receivers all around the country. But I think that if you're not giving them a good opportunity to be good, I mean, for all the talk that we've heard about guys like Deion Burks, look, Deion Burks was a lot better at Purdue than he was at Oklahoma. Now, why was that? We want to blame EJ for that one? He was hurt twice in the season 2 years ago. Last season, he didn't seem to get open very much. I mean, he's explosive when he got the ball, but if you're not getting in the ball, then what? Who's the big problem on? That's the whole point I'm trying to make. With the way we've had quarterback playing the last 2 years, I don't exactly understand why anybody would put that on EJ. The quarterbacks haven't been good. If the quarterback ain't good, the receivers ain't going to be good. Yeah. There you go. And Tier couldn't see him. Tier wasn't looking very long either. Yeah, go find his tape. I mean, his tape it's legit, man. Oh, yeah. Close to 900 yards in his first true season as a starter. Okay. Good for him. Good for Wingo. He ain't going to be the number one guy. And if he was so good, why did you need Cam Coleman? Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Yeah, but he played for a bad team, dog. He played for a bad team, Sooner for life. I've seen what they've done. I've seen both of their stats. Proven over potential all day long. Sure. It's better than 5'8", 5'9", like Deion Burks was last year. And I think that you're going to see different packages. They're going to run. You could put these guys in a lot of places, right? He might play on the inside some. He might play on the outside some. I think that if you're looking at if let's say him, Parker Livingston, and Isaiah Satania are on the field at the same time, Parker Livingston would be the guy that's going to be outside if it's just one of them that's playing on the outside. Right? You might have a situation where one of your tight ends is split off the line and they're playing on the outside because they're big. Certain situations. It's situational. But I think that Trell's played a lot on the outside. And yes, 6 foot it's good enough if you're that guy. And he's that guy. This dude's a stud, bro. I'm just saying. Yeah, it's not the. There you go. Yeah, Cam, look, I know why you would want Cam Coleman, of course. At the end of the day, it's Wingo hasn't been that dude yet. He hasn't. The guy that you're just like, holy shit. And he was his opportunity to be the number one dude. Where did I thought he was supposed to be Cam Coleman. That was supposed to be him. He's not going to be your number one. You know it and I know it. You don't need Randy Moss at the X to be a good team. Correct. Right. CeeDee Lamb, whatever. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. Yeah, Golden 8 on the outside at 6 foot. Look, go through and find 6-footers all throughout, the history of college sports, especially places like Oklahoma. Look, Sterling Shepard wasn't very big. He wasn't playing a ton Sterling would play anywhere on the field you want him to. He played a lot bigger. Shep was a bad dude. But you haven't had a ton. D.D. Westbrook, wasn't he 6 foot, 6'1"? He was a badass. You don't think Carrion's going to get many reps at wide receiver if he's indeed? Maybe they're trying to make him a tight end. I've heard something about that. I don't know if it's, I haven't, nothing definitive, but I've heard people hinting to it. Teddy and Gabe hinted about it. That he might be, they might be looking at him some to take some reps at the tight end position. I think that the tight end room is a lot better off right now than it was. I didn't understand why you weren't already trying him out at tight end last year. Now, again, he's been a receiver, so turning him into a blocker, is probably not something they're going to do. But Carrion's a big dude that every time he's been in the game, he doesn't drop footballs. They put him on the hands team on the kick team because, if you got to do an onside kick or whatever, or not have an onside kick get converted, you want him in because he's got great hands. I've yet to understand what's been going on there. I'll give you that one. I don't know if that had anything to do with EJ or not, but I've struggled to understand why we haven't seen Carrion. Really have. I'm going to get off this receiver talk. Move on. Next up, let's talk a little bit about the whole position battle. We'll do a little rapid fire here. Running back, Hatton versus Avant versus Walker versus Bass. Hearing a lot of cool stuff about Andy Bass, that he's looked really good. You've heard it from some of the players even. I think that'd be a hell of a story. Going through what he's gone through injury-wise since he was in high school coming in. Another one of those, he kind of reminds you of kind of like Jaren Kanak, just a stud athlete. Hopefully he gets his opportunity to do something. Love to see him in some shape or form this year, and back healthy is a big deal. As far as Hatton versus Lloyd Avant, I think that right now we're hearing good. I mean, we heard Dalen McCullough say that if they had a game tonight, it would be Lloyd Avant right now. He doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't make a mistake twice for sure. He's something that they've liked a lot of him. I expect that X-Rob and Torrey are going to be really good as well. And now we're hearing a lot of really good things about Hatton too. Who's it going to be? I think it's, who are you going to buy? I think we're going to find out. But they're all going to get their opportunities. I think those first few games will probably work out a lot of stuff, right? Buy or sell this. John Mateer earns all SEC honors on one of the teams at the end of the year. If Oklahoma's going to get to where we want to see them get, I think you have to buy that. So if you believe that Oklahoma is going to make it back to the playoff, I think you buy that. I'm not sure that I believe they're going to make the playoff. I think that they should. I want to see them prove a couple of things as far as, mostly of Mateer making the right choices. I think that if he's better in his decision making, I'm not worried about the arm slot. I'm not worried about any of that. I want him to see him make better decisions and play from the pocket more, go down the field, give his receivers an opportunity to keep EJ's job. But do you buy or sell him as all SEC? Buy or sell Oklahoma averaging 175 plus yards per game in the rush. I'm leaning buy, but I want to see what I see in the first couple of games. I'm leaning by that, though. I think that, again, if you're going to get where you want to go, then that's what you need. Okay? Do you buy or sell it? Next up, OU has the deepest defensive line in the SEC. I buy it immediately. We've heard a lot of stuff about guys outside of Jaden, David Stone. We've heard a ton about Nigel Smith. And I mean, we're hearing more stuff, right? Now you start looking at, let's take a look here. Second. Obviously, along that D line, you've got Jaden Jackson, Trent Wilson. Those are the guys you're hearing a ton about. You're hearing Nigel Smith, Bishop Thomas. You're starting to hear some stuff about him coming in. David Stone, obviously, everything we heard, last night, what I heard from Teddy was he's the best player on the field. You would expect that. But when you start looking at the outside too, Taylor Wine, PJ and Danny are battling for that number one spot on the right side. Kenny Ozawalu looked really good coming in as a transfer out of UTSA. Wyatt Gilmore has been turning heads as well. There's depth at all of these positions. You're hearing stuff even about guys like the true freshman coming in. We've got some guys that look, CJ Nixon, we've heard stuff about him as well. I expect, yes, that I buy it. I'm buying this D-line from end to end and on the inside. I think it's the best D-line in the country, and I think it's the deepest D-line in the country as well. I don't think you're going to lose a ton from guy to guy. I just don't. Buy or sell. Cam Coleman becomes the SEC's best receiver. I buy the player. I think that he was the SEC's best receiver last year. I don't think that he got the opportunity to show that really because Jackson Arnold is afraid to throw. His ability is second to none. I would also say Dallas Wilson, if he's healthy, could be that guy. A lot of that's going to depend on what they do with their quarterback situation. But if I had to bet, I'd buy him as that. I think Cam Coleman's the best one. Right now, anyway. Buy or sell. Texas wins the national championship because of one catch in practice. Sell, sell, sell. I'm selling it. I would tell you what I buy. Texas disappointing everybody again. Despite that catch and the roster and everything else we've seen in the offseason. Yeah, Jake Crow. Love Jake Crow. Guillory shuts down Cam this year in Dallas by herself. I like this one. Here's what I would tell you about this. I think that Court is not afraid of going up against anyone. I think he's got a short memory, and I think that he hung with Cam last year. Cam was just, he made a play or two. He made a couple plays, right? He's a true freshman trying to go up against the best receiver in the SEC. But I would tell you that I think he's a better player this year than he was a year ago. Here's what I hope. Don't put Cortland Guillory in a position where he needs to be one-on-one with Cam Coleman much. Because I don't know that Cortland or anybody in college football should be one-on-one with Cam Coleman much. Anybody. Anywhere. If you're not finding a way to spy him and bracket him a little bit, and don't put Cortland on an island with him all game. I don't think that's what you should be doing. And not that BV's the guy that that you're always going one-on-one anyway. It's not something that you should do. But I really, really like Cortland Guillory, and I think that he's not afraid of Cam Coleman or anyone else. But I wouldn't put him one-on-one with them a lot either. I'm definitely buying Cortland Guillory. But I would also buy Cam Coleman too. How many guys do you want to put one-on-one with, the guy down in Miami either? You shouldn't. How many guys are you going to put one-on-one with Jeremiah Smith? It's pretty stupid. It's pretty stupid. Put my money on the field to win a natty over Texas. Never buy the favorite to win it all. It's rare that it works out. Again, guys, if we're talking about Texas as the best roster, best situation at quarterback, receiver, wherever you want it, they had all this last year too, and an easier schedule. Not by much, but an easier schedule. About the only good team or the projected good team that they don't play in the regular season this year is going to be Georgia. Alabama, I guess you don't play Bama either. Bama could be really good too. We're going to have to wait and see how good, but they're going to be good. Those are the two good teams in the SEC, or the good teams you would expect in the SEC. They don't have to play. They get Ole Miss. They get LSU. LSU's in Baton Rouge. They obviously got Oklahoma. They're on the road at A&M. If you believe in A&M, whatever. They're playing all the good. They got Tennessee on the road. It's a tough schedule for them. So I'm not sure that I'm definitely not buying them to win the national championship. Not buying it. You don't think Texas is the favorite? You liar. BV will run man pressure on Texas. You're gonna have to some. I'm saying I wouldn't do it a lot. It's not gonna be a ton of time that you need to be one-on-one with Cam Coleman. I don't think anybody will a ton. Why would you do that? And if you're doing it, it's because you're sending the house and not expecting Arch to get off a good throw type of deal, which is what you would be hoping for. But I wouldn't. I mean, look, I'm just saying I don't see it. I don't buy Oregon, Ohio State, or Georgia. It's going to be another win, new team to emerge. Okay. You don't buy Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, or Georgia. So who's the new team to win? Who are you buying then, Sooner Cowboys? If you're not buying Texas, who are you buying? Give me a list of teams that you believe, because I think it's a wide open race. I think there's a lot of teams that can win the national championship, roster-wise. What I believe in wise, I'm not sure. I'm thinking Ohio State's it. I think Notre Dame is the favorite to win. You know, I've got them in number one in my top 12 plus. I think Ohio State's going to be really good again, and their wide receiver room is ridiculous. Julian Sayin is a year into being a starter. This is year 2. Good shot for them. I like their coordinator situation. The guy, even replacing their coordinator on the offensive side. I feel like that's Ryan Day's position, but Arthur Smith, that guy's, pretty good at what he does as well on that part of it, at least play calling. But obviously Ryan Day, that's his offense anyway. Oregon with two new coordinators gives me doubt. Yeah, both of their coordinators are head coaches now from last season. The defensive coordinator took over at Cal as head coach, and the offensive coordinator, obviously, Will Stein at Kentucky. I agree with you. I think that they're still really, really good. But again, 2 brand new coordinators. I don't think either one of them have been coordinators before either. I think that's a gamble. And listen, when has Oregon done it with those guys as coordinators? They still have yet to get over the hump and win a natty. They've had some of the best talent for the last 20 years. Everybody wants to go to Oregon, have 50,000 uniforms. Nike University hadn't equated to much. I'm not buying them either. I think Miami is absolutely a favorite. I think Darian Mensah may be the best quarterback in the country. Right now, it's him and Trinidad for me. Trinidad first, then Darian Mensah. I like Moore as well. I think Dante Moore is really good. I love their receiver situation. again, they've got a pretty tough schedule for Oregon's, how it's been since they got in the Big Ten. They're playing more good teams than they have. Certainly more than they did last year. Drew Mestamaker, you mean? Or Maringer? Yeah, he does. Big games, he gets blown the hell out. Are you talking about Mestamaker, Hammer? Lanning gets his ass drug in big games. After Red River, do they have any coming into that? I've got Texas going at least 9-3 this year. I think 9-3 is, it could happen. Would it surprise me if they went 10-2, 11-1? No. Oh, Drew Maringer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know much about him, which is surprising to me because I feel like I pay attention to coaches more than a lot of people do, but I don't. I saw Rashad Samples got arrested for DUI and tried to say he was somebody else last week. That was wild. Rashad causing some shit. I like Mestamaker too. I think he's good. But yeah, Miami, they're stacked. They're absolutely stacked. Malachi Toney, whoo, stud. Their offensive line, they replaced a little bit, but not much of it. Their D line was deep anyway. They just didn't use a lot of the depth, it didn't seem like. But look, one thing Mario can do is recruit. And they've done great in the trenches. And I think that's the biggest thing. You got a bell cow running back coming back. I think they're pretty good in the secondary. I think they're going to be really good on the D line. I think that the ACC is mid overall. I think that Louisville, I don't know why more people aren't talking about Louisville. I think that they're probably the second best team in that league. And they beat Miami last year in Miami. Now, it's going to, obviously it depends on what do you get out of this quarterback. Another quarterback coming over. He's an Ohio State guy. Didn't win the job last year, so he's moved on. Look, I trust what they do with quarterbacks. I like Louisville. Again, the rest of the league, it's iffy for me. Somebody's going to step up. Is it going to be Virginia again? Probably not. Is it going to be Duke again? Probably not. Do you believe in what Florida State is? No. I think there's some stuff that could happen that could make them. I think Florida State's better than what people think they are. I don't know that they fire Mike Norvell. I know people are saying that's going to happen. They still owe him a lot of money. And if they don't have to fire him, they're not going to. And he's done best at Florida State when he was calling the offense like he is this year. So I think their quarterback situation's good. It remains to be seen. We're going to find out. SMU, yeah. SMU was supposed to be really good last year too. I don't love their quarterback. I know a lot of people like him. I don't love him. He didn't do much last year. Yeah, I think Miami's one game that they could and you could understand them losing, only one. Just Notre Dame. Really the only game that I see them that they should be super tested in. Now, look, you're going to play Florida State or whatever, and I get it. It's a rivalry game. You never know. And maybe Florida State's better than we think. I'm picking Miami. Right? They don't have to play Louisville. They don't have to play Florida State this year, do they? No. Do you even play Florida State this year, Hammer? I didn't say they were going to fire him. Florida State's the game. You don't get the hype about Darian Mensah? Are you crazy? He looked really good against Oklahoma's defense 2 years ago at Tulane. Did you go look at the numbers that he put up last year at Duke? You crazy, bro. You crazy. At the Rock, yep, I'll be there. All right. Manger was Tom Herman's homie. Oh. Well, yeah, then I'm not buying that cat at all. Shit. Herman, huh? All right. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see. All right, guys. Hey, here's the deal. What changed after the first week of fall camp? Not much. My confidence in Oklahoma's defense is unchanged. I already believed in it. My confidence in the offense, probably slightly higher. I've been trending that way anyway. The question for me is going to be how well do they adjust, and do they actually make the commitment to a run game that's going to put the ball in the hands of these running backs and that scheme in crunch time even. How do they do that stuff? We'll see. It's slightly higher than it was. I think that you kind of have to if you're Ben Arbuckle, because your job is probably on the line. The expectations at OU for offense are much higher than this. Much higher. You know? Nobody wins anything in August, though, guys, despite what Emmanuel Acho may have to say, or, whatever he may have heard. But you absolutely can begin finding players that are going to help you win it in December. Oklahoma may have found a couple of them already. Texas may have found a couple of them already. I'm sure they're finding people all over the country. From what I'm hearing, it sounds like Keelan Russell's kind of reestablishing who the dude is. Just like I told you, I saw that when I went to their A-Day game back in the spring. I'm telling you, man, this dude they're the real deal. I think Keelan's the real deal. It sounds like he's kind of reestablishing that. He hadn't won the job yet, but we're seeing that all over the country. You're not going to win anything in August, but hopefully you identify the guys that are going to help you win back in December. We're going to find out. Tell me what you think in the comments. Who are you buying to win the national championship? Do you think that Texas makes the playoff, wins the Natty? What is your trust level for them in Sark? Mine's pretty low on trust. I think that they are absolutely talented enough to do so. I think they were also talented enough to do so last year with an easier schedule. And they went 9-3. I think Oklahoma needs to find a way to beat them before I start believing that Oklahoma is going to make the playoff either. You tell me what you think in the comments. Appreciate everybody coming in. If you haven't become a subscriber already, become a subscriber. Help us out. We're on the road to 6,000 and beyond. Thanks to everybody for coming in. We'll see you on the next. We'll see you on the next one.